Hello and welcome back, this is Veer. This is a sort of recap and perspective on yesterday's video, past the haze of rage I was in yesterday. I'd like to start off with two apologies. The first is for being such a part of the internet hate machine. I literally read this article and immediately recorded what I recorded. I was very emotional about the subject. Maybe we would get to why in this video, maybe we won't. I don't know if I will be able to probe that issue from the proper direction. The other thing is the quality. It was quite horrible. I understand that you could hear ice cubes clinking and stuff like that, and just comes off as unprofessional. So, sorry about those. Some people left interesting comments and brought up some interesting points, which I want to address. One person brought up the point that this article presents a sort of revisionist history, and that women have been consistently the enemies of geeks in the past. He described them as being the ones to give geeks and nerds grief over them being nerds, and I'm sure that all the nerdy viewers and listeners do remember that while they might have been bullied by other males in their environment, the real grief did come from women in this subject. And he makes a good point. I will read his comment verbatim. The concept that women have always wanted to be part of the geek world. I've been a geek longer than the woman who wrote this article has been alive, and trust me, as a geek from my generation, your number one enemy was women. They conveniently leave out that part of the narrative. The fact that you were 10 times more likely to be shamed or laughed at for your geekiness by a female than a male never gets mentioned, does it? Even though sci-fi and fantasy had the strongest female characters by far than any other genre, it had nothing to do with feminism. It was the men, and yes, some women, who were writing these strong women. They were writing them because the readers, male by a vast majority, liked strong female characters. Yet for some reason now, feminists and male apologists feel the need to usurp male characters instead of focusing on the already existing female characters. When they say men make geekdom a hostile environment, I want to scream, bitch, when they turn Black Widow into a dude, we can talk about hostile environment. They talk about the concept of constant quizzing as if it's an attempt to run women out of the geek culture. The last con I attended, I got quizzed for 20 minutes straight about Vampire the Masquerade, and it's been out of print for 15 years, all because one of the vendors played in the game I ran and mentioned out loud that I was a great storyteller. That's just an excuse these women use because they don't like the fact that we know they're more interested in the attention they get from dressing up than the actual mythos that they're dressing from. Finally, they're still being abusive inside the geek community. How many articles, blogs, and videos have you seen that express the same nonsense as what that article stated? Basically, it says, we are girls, you should be just as happy around... you should just be happy we are around you. I never needed women in the gaming community. If they were there and they wanted to participate, fine, but that goes for penis, vagina, or other. But don't expect to walk into my house and expect me to redecorate the whole damn place because you don't like the feng shui. And he makes an excellent point. I will call him M instead, in case he doesn't want his name to be exposed. Thank you for making that point. And it is a technique of bullies, and it is a very narrow-minded way to look at things. Everyone gets quizzed, everyone gets not a slight level of hostility but of competitiveness, because the geek culture and the gaming cultures, whether tabletop or video, are relatively meritocratic, and that's the healthy competitiveness that helps it get better and helps people improve. Also, another point that was made, and it's also, I'm sort of paraphrasing Karen Strawn here, is that women have always been the gatekeepers of culture and of what's appropriate and allowable in polite society. Again, we have a case of self-appointed moral superiors who tell us what's right, what we can do, what we can't do, and they have taken that role upon themselves to be our self-appointed moral superiors. It was the PMRC in the 80s with the labels of albums, and it was gaming later. It was D&D before gaming, and it was always women at the forefront of this so-called struggle, and women and feminist male allies. It's a point to consider whether you agree with it or not. Lastly, I would like to make a comparison between conservatives and feminists, because there is something very different about our worldviews. While the conservatives have also fought against video games or some aspects of gaming culture, nerd culture, there is an inherent difference. While conservatives have always had their pennies in a bunch over the occupations of people on the fringe of society, their concern was utilitarian, out of fear for themselves and society. They don't see people as inherently evil, but at worst as making bad choices. And if they join the mainstream culture and adopt its values, it's going to be okay, since they believe people are inherently good and there are only bad choices. The fact that they are narrow-minded and don't see how those choices are valid, it's another problem. But conservatives themselves don't see these choices and the people making them as evil. Feminists, on the other hand, do see people as inherently evil, so they don't need to adopt mainstream culture. On the contrary, mainstream culture needs to assimilate all fringe culture and turn it safe and inoffensive. The nail that sticks needs to be beaten on its head. Mainstream culture needs to crush and suffocate the fringe. The people in the fringe need to be beaten into submission or to be run out of the city. There is only one good choice, and those who don't make it have to be evil, according to the feminist narrative. Someone commented why I was so angry about this thing. Why did I get so emotional about it, while it was basically my choice and my mistake to do so? It's more than just a person coming into my living room and trying to tell me how to live my life. It's religious totalitarianism. It's implying that people are inherently bad. It's implying that there are forces of good and forces of evil locked in perpetual struggle. It's framing me as a bad person, not for my choices, but for disagreeing, for having a different opinion. Never mind the fact that the article didn't even prove why being a geek also means being a feminist. You should always be angry when you see someone trying to destroy something good or something beautiful. And the beautiful and the successful are not social constructs. And I think that if you do not feel emotional and distraught over a person trying to hurt that which is good and beautiful and successful and unique, trying to destroy it, to unmake what makes it, then you have something wrong with your priorities and your values. And for too long, I think that either nerds or metalheads, or geeks, or gamers have been on the defensive because they are still considered as the fringe of society, and nobody cares really about what they think as long as it's not in my backyard. And we need to at least stand for ourselves. At least say, the buck stops here, this is something good. I don't want to reach the state where it would all be corrupted down to mediocrity, safety, and inoffensiveness. That's the world where your intelligent and creative people drink themselves into a stupor and later kill themselves with or without a mass-shooting following coming before that. This could also be linked perhaps to the reason why male suicide rates are higher and ever increasing. Yeah, this took a very dark turn. So we have an option. We can either fight, take the initiative and attack and carve out our own territory, or we can remain on the defensive, which is eventually a losing strategy. Thank you for watching and listening to Veer Media. Please like, rate, subscribe, share, send me hate mail. I will see you later.